I want to share with you a unique approach to psychometry. When you think about psychometry in this way, it opens up so much more information.
This is your moment. This is your moment in time. This is your moment. This is your moment.
Okay, let's start with what psychometry is. Psychometry is holding a physical object and picking up intuitive information about that object. Pretty straightforward, absolutely. But today I want to talk about this on a really deep level. And when we talk about it on a deeper level, it's going to open up possibilities for you. It's going to open up that intuitive channel in such a way that you're going to get 10 times more intuitive information than you've ever gotten before doing psychometry. Now, psychometry is I don't even know, like historically, when it started, I was introduced to it very early on. It is one of my strengths. I wouldn't even say strength because we all can connect with objects through psychometry, but it's one of those ways that my intuition really thrives. And what this is holding on to an object and being able to pick up a few different things. You can pick up the history of the object. You can pick up information about the owner of the object. You can even pick up information about the elements within the object and the history of those elements, how they came to be. For example, you can hold someone's wedding ring or watch, or these are some of the basic examples. A lot of readers do this, where they hold on to someone's personal object, always with respect, please. I've seen some intuitives before, like take another person's wedding ring, maybe perhaps someone who is deceased, and like put it on their finger. And I always think, oh, no, you hold it with a lot of honor, a lot of respect, and you hold that object. And when you hold that object, the general concept of psychometry is that you'll be able to access more information about the owner of that object. This is great. This is fantastic. And people have used psychometry for years and years and years, but I feel like we've lost the depths of what psychometry really, really is. Now, for me, the way that I see psychometry, because early on, I started to use it and I realized I was getting a lot of intuitive hits with it, was getting a lot of information. I wanted to understand it. How can I just hold this object? How can I just hold this pen and all of a sudden know things about the owner that I'm not really understanding? I want to know what's actually happening here. And when I dove down into that with my teaching guide, he explained it to me like this. He said, when you understand the material world on a spiritual level, that's when you understand why holding something that belongs to someone else is going to give you access to more intuitive information. Now, in the physical world, we have molecules. That's the solid. So when you're looking at this pen, that's what you see. You see the molecules, okay? But in between those molecules is the non-solid. That's where spiritual information is. That's where intuition is. That's where intuitive information, the other side, our guide, source, universe, you name it. Anything that's not physical of this earth is in between the molecules. All right, with that said, that means that this pen has a whole bunch of molecules that are made up to be able to, they all come together and they line up in such a way that we can see this pen, okay? But it has even more space in between the molecules within this pen than there are molecules. There's more space in here than there is solid. So we see the solid, we feel the solid. I get it. Like physically as a person, I'm feeling this pen, okay? We feel it. But when you acknowledge the space in between the solid, that's when psychometry goes off the charts. That's when psychometry just opens up a floodgate of more information. Because in essence, same thing goes true for our hand. You know, it's made up of molecules. It's the physical body is solid. It's part of the solid earth. The spaces in between are the spaces, that's where we are focusing our attention when we are holding ourselves in an intuitive state. We are defocusing. If you haven't seen the defocusing video, you should go back to that one. It's a really good video. But we're defocusing, we're detaching from the agreed upon reality, which is another way of saying we are ignoring the physical and focusing on the spaces in between. Now, that's true for my hand, that's true for this pen. Here's where the really cool stuff comes in. When my hand holds this pen and I can acknowledge also the physical. Let's acknowledge the physical first. I acknowledge the physical, put it this way, that the solid molecules of my hand are, near the solid molecules of this pen. As a person, my physical body feels the pen. I'm holding the pen, acknowledged, done. Now, let's get into the intuition. Let's get into the spiritual. When you recognize that within your hand, the spaces in between the molecules of your hand are now interacting with the spaces in between the molecules of the pen, that's when intuitive information starts to amp up. That's when you start to get more. When your left brain, the analytical brain, is focusing on the solidity of this pen, you're blocking the intuitive channel. When you let go of the solidity of the pen, of the solid, and you allow the spaces in between the molecules of your hand to interact with the spaces in between the molecules of the pen, you are now interacting with the intuitive information, the source, the history, the energy of the pen. This small step, although it seems small and simple, this step is just taking psychometry into the next realm, into the next layer, into the next level. It's just the same thing as defocusing, like I talked about in the defocusing video. It's stepping out of the left brain focusing on the material object and the right brain focusing on the energy inside of the pen. This is really strong when you connect with someone's object that they have been wearing most of their life, or it's a ring that they've always worn, or a wallet that they had, or their favorite pen that they used all the time at work. Every time I use this pen, my energy connects with the energy within the pen. The spaces within the molecules of my hand connect with the spaces in between the molecules of the pen. My spiritual energy is connecting with the energy within the pen. It's as if it shares it, holds it, incorporates it, connects with it. And then I hand the pen to an intuitive, to somebody who's going to look into this intuitively and hold it and see what they pick up. The second that person can let go of the agreed upon reality, to let go of the concept that this is a pen, to let go of the concept that they're a physical person holding a physical pen, and they can just relax into the knowledge that the spaces in between the pen, the spaces in between their hand are now coming together. That's when it opens up doorways of information, just floodgates, just poof, poof, poof. All right, well, now that we got past the physical, the non-physical can interact. And when the non-physical interacts, that's when information is exchanged. So if you like psychometry, or if you're interested in it, I say play around with it. Also, I want to give you a couple more tips here before we go. Also, when it comes to psychometry, if you've struggled with it in the past, give it a try again now, knowing that you're not trying to really focus in on the pen. You're focusing in on the spaces in between the molecules of the pen. Once you do that, watch more intuitive information come through, but also stay open. Don't step into psychometry with, a single line intent. I'm going to pick up this pen and I'm going to get information about the owner. If you can let that go, again, you're going to get more information. If you can just hold an object and say, this is my favorite question, it is, what is it you want me to know, to the object? Let it speak. Let the spaces in between the molecules that are the most important right now connect with the spaces in between the molecules of your hand. Let that intuitive information come through. Give the pen, the seat, and say, hey, have a seat. Tell me what it is you want me to know. That's where it can all come through. Now, another way to look at this is, actually, before I jump forward, I want to add to that a little bit. You can get information, like I said, about the history of an object. You can get information about the owner of an object. You can get information about the materials of the object. You can get a lot of different types of information through psychometry. So please don't limit yourself to one type of information. When we say, oh, I do, every time you do psychometry, you're going to get information about the owner. That's a limitation. Break that limitation and step into psychometry, holding an object, saying anything can happen. Whatever it is you need me to know, whatever the most important piece of intuitive information needs to come through, please allow that to come through now. That's another way to widen that channel and to receive more detailed, strong information. It's a very powerful way to be. I love that. So holding an object, be open to anything that comes through. Even if somebody's sitting in front of you saying, you know, this is my grandfather's pen, can you hold it and tell me something about him? You might not get information about him. You might get information about how the pen was created or who had the pen before that. Stay very open. We can always, after exploring the initial pieces of information that come through, we can always ask more questions then, but always give yourself that space to say whatever the most important piece of information is, please come on through first. That's going to up the accuracy. It's going to up the amount of information that comes through intuitively for you. Also, acknowledging that you're not really tapping into a pen. You're tapping into the energy within the pen. You're tapping into the spaces in between the molecules within the pen. And if this was like my grandfather's pen, for example, every time he held it, he connected with it. Think about a moment that perhaps he held the pen and he was writing a love letter to his wife. Throughout all of the spaces in between him, his spiritual channels, his universal connection, all of that, not the physical molecules, but all the spaces in between are feeling this overwhelming love for another soul. That is going to bleed into the spaces in between this pen. The pen is going to experience that. It's another way to say it. The energy of the pen is going to feel that. Now, fast forward, you sit with that pen. And if that's the most important piece of information that needs to come through for the reading or the session or whatever you're experiencing intuitively, that's what's going to come through. You're going to say, tell me the most important thing, pen, that you want to tell me. And you're going to acknowledge that your energy is connecting with the energy of the pen, not the physical. Your energy is connecting with the energy of the pen. And when your energy connects with the energy of the pen, which holds that very powerful love letter writing moment, you're going to pick that up. It's going to be beautiful. You're going to feel it. And it'll come through your other senses intuitively in such a way, hopefully, that you'll understand, okay, I can feel the love, or I can see the love, or I'm seeing this, or I'm experiencing it. When you're doing psychometry, first, even if you're trying to get a particular piece of information, first, let the object speak to you. Secondly, acknowledge that you're not trying to read the solid. Once you do that, it's going to open up a whole bunch of doors for you. You're going to love it.
This is your moment.